Hello, Joe here with another video from Time for Tea Designs. Today's video is the edited version of our Facebook Live last Thursday. Sorry about my voice, it's a bit croaky. I think I'm coming down with something, although I'm desperately trying not to. Today's card is going to be a Valentine's card for Ant because he wasn't available for the Facebook Live on Thursday as he had to work nights, bless him. So we thought it'd be nice to make him a little Valentine's card. And I'm using one of our square card blanks and I'm going to be masking my background directly onto that card blank. So I'm using one of the large square masking dies and also the insert from the small circle masking stencil. Did I say dies? I meant stencils. I'm using some of my Distress Oxide inks to create my background colour, and I'm creating a night sky. Also used a little bit of washi tape along the bottom to create a little bit of a ground and a grass area once my sky is complete. So the first shade that I've used there is the Blueprint Sketch, and I'm just wiping off my brush with my microfiber cloth. And now I'm going to go in with the Chipped Sapphire. I'm concentrating the darkest part of the colour around my moon and letting it fade away towards the bottom of my scene. And so I've just gone back in with some of that Blueprint Sketch just to blend out that colour. I'm now going to use some of these new fine tech metallic paints that I bought, watercolour paints, and I'm just going to water one of those down. I think this is a cotton pearl colour that I believe I'm using, and I'm just going to splatter some of that shimmer onto my background to create a starry night sky. And I'm going to pop that to one side to dry now because I want to finish off that grass area once that's dried. So while that's drying, I'm going to stamp out my images. So I'm stamping out the squirrel with his nut, and I'm using the little tree as well. I wanted to use the sentiment, "I'm nuts about you," so that's why we chose the squirrel. So I'm just stamping that onto some super smooth cardstock, and I'm going to use my Memento Tuxedo black ink to stamp my images as I'm going to be colouring them in with some copic markers. So just double stamping that, and this is the great thing about having a stamping platform. It means that you can do that twice and be sure not to get any blurred lines. And I'm moving on to colouring them now. So I'm going to colour my squirrel in grey. We had a little bit of a debate online about grey and red squirrels and how they're doing in the wild these days. It feels like there are more grey squirrels out there than red, but I'm no expert on this. So yeah, we did decide to do him grey. And I'm using the combination of the T1, T3 and T5 just to create a little bit of dimension. I'm keeping things lighter towards the centre of his face and the centre of his body, and then the tip of his tail. I'm going in with the darkest shade just around the very edges of the face and under the head and the bottom of the body and paws, but I've done a much bigger portion of the darker area for the tail as I wanted that to appear like it was behind his body and was a darker, richer grey. Applying a little bit of pink to the cheeks and the ears just for a little bit of colour. And then for the acorn, I chose a different combination of colours, so I decided to use an E31 and an E33 just for the nut part, and use the E34 just to create a little bit of a darker edge. On camera, this looks like a really nice blend, but I wasn't that happy with it, so I did go back in and just do a little bit of tip to tip with my lightest and mid-tone shades just to even that out a little bit. And I used the YG63, and I think it will be I think it was a YG84, I think, but I will double check that for you for the green for the top of the acorn. I used the same greens for the tree leaves as well. And I've also used the same combination of browns for my tree trunk. So just applying my lightest shades towards the left and creating shadow. Sorry, lighter shades on the right and my darker shades on the left. You can see that my brain is not working quite as well today. Um, so it was a G94. I apologise. That was the colour that I used to create the darkest green. So I was almost right. Sometimes it's hard to remember. So I then used the coordinating dies to cut out my images. So just applying those with a little bit of washi tape and popping them through my die cutting machine. So while that's been happening, my background has dried. So I'm just carefully removing that piece of washi tape, and then I'm going to reapply it along that line, so that I can mask off that top area and apply my grass colours. So the colours that I've chosen to create my grassy area are the bundled sage and the forest moss. So I'm starting off with that bundled sage and just creating a light coverage along the bottom of my background, wiping off my microfiber cloth, but then I decided to exchange it for a smaller size brush, so one of the medium size brushes, so that I could really concentrate that colour at the bottom of my grassy area. I didn't want it to go right the way to the top, as I wanted to create that gradient of colour, so that worked really nicely. At this point, I decided that I should have removed the moon when I did my splatters, because that would create the stars across the front of the moon, and I think that would have looked really nice. So before I remove the rest of my mask, I'm just going to reapply some of that cotton pearl across the front of my moon, so that creates that nice shimmer all the way across my scene. So now I'm going to stamp my sentiment, and I'm using just some really dark grey cardstock, and I've used my anti-static bag just there, as I'm going to be doing some heat embossing. And the sentiment that I want to create is one that I'm creating from the Say Anything stamp set. So I have just snipped the To Anne sentiment in half to just use the two, and then I'm using the best and boyfriend sentiment from that set, and I'm going to create my own little sentence of to the best boyfriend, and that will be the sentiment on the outside of my card, and then we will stamp the rest of the sentiment on the inside. So I'm just lining that up on my stamping platform and making sure that I've got that nice and straight before I continue to apply my ink. And I'm using the Wow embossing ink to stamp my sentiment, and just apply some firm pressure, and then using some of the Wow bright white embossing powder on my stamped sentiment, and just using a little bit of a brush there just to clean up any little spots that I didn't want, that were in the wrong areas. Applying some heat, and you can see that's setting really nicely, and pop that to one side while we just reveal our background now. So carefully removing the tape. I find that if I use the motion of just sliding it at an angle, that prevents me from tearing my page. And now we have our elements ready to position. I love the tree image and the die that goes with it, because it cuts out the elements between those branches, so that means that you can see your sky behind them, which is really nice, a nice effect. And I'm now going to cut out the sentiment. I'm using the banners die that comes in the Best Fishers banner and border die set, and I'm using that just to cut out. It's the perfect size for all of our sentiments, and I'm just going to snip off one edge, because I want that to line up with the imaginary line created by our square stencil. The next step is to stamp the inside of my card, which isn't something that I normally do, but I do think this is a really nice thing to add to your cards. And I'm using the I'm Nuts About You sentiment there in the center of my card, and I'm using my stamping platform just to help me line that up. And I decided to use that again while I just lined up the first of my other elements that I'm going to use to decorate the inside. But in the end, I did decide to just freestyle it, as it is a small image. And it was a little bit of a faff to do it with the platform because it is so small. But I did like the idea of decorating the inside with these little smaller elements. So I've used a couple of the acorns, and then I'm going to use the tiny little heart image that's in that stamp set. And I'm going to use the bundled sage for this one, so the lighter green distress oxiding, just to stamp those little images on the inside. And it's nice to do that with a little bit of colour, so add a little bit of colour to the inside of your card as well, rather than just using the traditional black. So now my card base is ready, I can start adding my elements, and I'm going to use some liquid glue to the back of my tree so that I can just have that sitting in the background of my scene. And then I will adhere my little squirrel using some foam pads. So just adding a couple of these pads to the back of my image, and a couple of smaller ones to make sure that there is no bowing, and that sits nice and firmly across the front of my scene. And then the same for my sentiment. I did think about using some shaker tape, but in the end I decided to go for some of these small square foam tabs, just so that we can get a nice little bit of dimension, but it wasn't too much dimension, because I think that's what we would have got with the shaker tape. So I'm just going to line that up on the front of my card. I'm going to use a little bit of cardstock to give myself a straight line so that I can see where that imaginary line for my square would be. And that's lined up really nicely. So we've pretty much got our scene together. It's just a matter of adding some of those little finishing touches that we love. So I've used the glossy black jelly roll pen for the nose, and I'm using my white jelly roll pen to add some highlights around the face, some little freckles to the cheeks, and then to the tree as well. But for my acorn, I did really want to add a little bit of shine to that acorn, because acorns always seem quite shiny to me, so a little bit of glossy accents across the acorn just adds that extra little bit of a finishing touch. So that's our card complete. You can see the inside of the card there as well. I really do hope that you enjoyed the video today. It was a really fun one to make, really quite quick and simple, and a bit more of a masculine Valentine's card, although you can use it for all occasions. It doesn't have to just be for Valentine's. We will be doing more videos, more Facebook Lives. If you join us every Thursday on Facebook at 8 o'clock, and we will be live crafting away, and we'd love it if you could join us. And we will always post the edited version as soon as we can following that live event. Please do like and subscribe to our channel. It really does help us continue producing these videos for you. And please let us know on social media of what videos you would like to see in the future. Thank you ever so much for watching, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye bye now.